Hi, I'm ED-SKaR.
And it's your old pal, TikiTheHutt.
And I've got Tiki on the episode today because he's come up with an interesting concept specifically to do with the 30 model boxes of Bolt Action. But before I let you do something, there is one very, very important thing that I have to do before we go any further.
It's that roll and order dice for ambush. I was just about to talk.
Right, there we go.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I'm about it. That's awesome. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. That was worth it. Well done. Well done.
Right, so explain what's going on.
Sure. So this concept came around with somebody from the Morning Glory community was saying they wanted to get into the Imperial Japanese for Bolt Action 3rd Edition. I'm known as a Imperial Japanese player. I do enjoy the models, do enjoy the units, I enjoy the history. Not known as a good player, but that's beside the point. Someone does know that I know the models and I know.
Who cares about being good, right?
Right? Yeah.
Having fun is far more important.
It's Flash. And so what they mentioned is like, hey, a guy he's gonna give me a couple tanks. That's what he said, but I'm not sure what kind. And so I didn't want to get a whole army set. You know, I just wanted to pick up a box. What can I do with just a box of infantry? And I was super excited for that challenge because me personally, starter boxes, they're cool. I like them. Usually they have good value, which I do appreciate. You know, I have a whole video talking about, you know, the expensive conflict, similar to you, it's expensive conflict 47. But starter boxes, they can save you money, but a lot of times when everybody has one, you have a very symmetrical based army. It's like, hey, I have army group A versus army group B. You kind of know roughly how it may play out.
Everyone has a medium mortar. Everyone has a medium machine gun. Everyone has the officers group. Everyone has a medic.
And when you walk around outside, depending on where you live, you know, you'll see people in tattoos, piercings. You'll see cars of all different kinds of colors and stickers in the back windshield. Everybody likes customization.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's the downside of the starter boxes. They're cool, but not super customizable necessarily. But that's what you get for the value. It's a trade-off, and it's fair. So when I looked at that, I got excited because I like building custom stuff. Like, oh, let me make this unique to you. So I took a look at what he could get for 500 points in the box of 30 Imperial Japanese soldiers. Now, those come with, I want to say, it should be 6 people, so it should be about 5 sprues.
That's correct.
And they have, you know, certain weapons on each sprue, so I had to really take a look. And that's a fun challenge, to keep it within 500 points, because I'm one of those people where if someone says they want to play a 500-point game, you don't show up with 505 points. No, you have to sacrifice and bring it down to 500. It's all about sacrifice, you know?
Yeah, and I've taken this to the kind of logical extreme. Because now that we've got this 500 points of 30 models of Japanese, well, can't we do the same thing with every single box? Or at least one box for each nation? Because once you have 30 models, a standard rifleman is 10 points, so 30 models, just basic riflemen, are going to be 300. So it actually doesn't take a lot of effort to push that to 500 for any nation. If you have the special weapons, if you have the officer, if you throw in a couple of veteran squads, and we'll see quite a few veterans in the video today, it's actually really easy to get any of the nations up to 500 points with those 30 models. And that 500 points becomes a really good basis for all sorts of Bolt Action and Conflict 47 as well lists, where you've got this core rifle platoon of 500 points that you can then add other things onto.
Yeah, it becomes a modularity system. I think we've talked about this before, where when I start a faction, I'm like, oh, these Italianos look cool. Let me start at 500 points. Then I'll flex that to 750, then to 1,000, then to 1,250, and sometimes even 1,500. But when you build with that modularity system, it kind of works off an actual TONE or force organizational chart for actual military. So it actually kind of works that way. And I partial to I think 750 is probably one of the best starter points. Maybe it's a whole nother video, whole nother fun discussion. But 750
we can talk about that another time. Yeah.
Yeah, but 500 points I think is great to teach someone the game, because you could do it on a 4x4 table. You don't need that much terrain. It's easy to transport, you know, and all you gotta do is both of you just buy one, you know, 30-person box, and boom, you're way to go right there. And you can always add on to it, either for Bolt Action or for what I think is the vastly more superior, I said it, there you go, clickbait right there, vastly more superior Conflict 47. We'll see what the new rules are. Maybe I'll regret this when the new rules come out. I doubt it, but
I am very much looking forward to Conflict 47, but that's not this video. Let's talk about that else when.
Keep them on track. Don't run till you finish your point. The beatings will continue. No rum ration. Stick to the point.
Yes, stick to the point. The point is that you can buy pretty much the basic single item, single product from Warlord Games, which is the infantry platoon box, and have a playable army, a small, low points cost, but playable army that you can then learn the game. So you buy one box and the rulebook, and you get stuck into play. And that's what we are looking at today. So Tiki, why don't you start us off with where you started off and talk through the Japanese platoon that you came up with.
And we will see if he can stay on. We'll see if he can stay on topic. All right. So
Unlikely.
absolutely, the point is when I'm building these, what I lean, because there will be different methods to building these, and my point of keeping it is to represent the army and the unique nation rules, and have a fun army. Maybe not a competitive army, but a fun army to play at 500 points, and really get a taste for what some of the nation offers. So with that being said, of course, for the IJA. They're strong infantry corps. Even though Bonsai got taken out back and beat with a bat like Negan from an episode of Walking Dead, we all know that happened with a Nerf bat. But it's fine, it's cool, you know.
Alas,
no
I never got to play the Japanese in second edition. I've only just finished them recently.
You can play Conflict 47, baby. The rules are still in there. You can Bonsai charge up and down the board all the time. Anyways, so the IJ with the strong style infantry corps we're talking about, they have. I feel they're really generous now. Even more so with the new Warlord Games sprue, they're a lot more generous about putting special weapons on the sprue, which is cool. But I think with the IJ going all the way back to when those models came out, they already put cool stuff in there. On the sprue, you already have multiple katanas. You know, one version it's two hands drawn and one hand it's still in its sheath, and it's more of a shingunto. And again, you'll have to forgive my odd pronunciations. You also have a light mortar on the sprue. I think you have two light machine guns. You have a lot of awesome stuff to work with on each one of those sprues. Again, each sprue has 6 bodies. Again, I can't tell if it's a 99 or a 97. I know it's not the beloved Type 11, and that's what really matters to me. I've never seen a Type 11. I would do unspeakable things to get a Type 11 in 28 millimeter. If you're listening,
for the 3D printers out there, send us some files. We'll make it happen.
So let me get down on the nitty gritty. I'm sure people like shut up and just show me models and
pull up the list and let's see what we've got.
All right, so 500 points, we have 7 order dice, and this is 494 points, so just shy of 6. So I started off with the, obviously it's a rifle platoon. So I started off with the commander. It is a commander with a what I'd call a senior NCO and an adjutant. So it's a platoon commander with 2 additional personnel. All 3 are veteran, and all 3. I'm sorry, it's I apologize. It's just 1 NCO. Sorry, I have 2 lists.
2
so
models.
It's the
officer and 1 helper.
Yep, and they both have submachine guns and they're both veterans. So then we move on down to the actual corps. And what the corps is it's a rifle corps. It is going to be 10 soldiers, 10 Imperial Japanese infantry squad. They're all veterans. There's going to be the NCO with a submachine gun, and then 1 light machine gunner with his AG. So ultimately that's 10 soldiers, and they're all veterans. So I have that twice. So right now we're looking at...
This is what I refer to as the slightly boring but absolutely brilliant standard rifle squad. Every nation of World War II fielded a squad to this specification, and it's like it's not like the power gamers move, but it's very versatile and it's always worth using.
It is. I usually stuck to my 15-man rifle teams, and just lately after RK gave me a beatdown in a fictional battle of Malta, I realized the power of submachine guns in version 3. So, but this unit right here, this squad base, where NCO has a submachine gun, it's 10 guys and there's 1 LMG in the unit. It's actually more like it's not the Emperor's bayonet, it's more the Emperor's multi-tool. Not as sexy, but highly useful in a lot of different situations. Yeah. So scrolling on down, we have what I think is the linchpin, and that is 2 veteran lunge mines. And we're using the term lunge mine because, I figured it's a safe term to use, and it actually is what it is. And I'll explain why I went with 2 of them. And then after that, I have 2 veteran light mortar teams, and they are actual 3-person teams per the rules for 3rd edition. So when you count the bodies up, 20 in the 2 infantry squads, plus 2 for the leadership team, plus 2 for the lunge mines, so we're looking at 24. And then you have 2 light mortar teams, 3 pop, that makes 30. So this is perfectly 30 people. Now, you can take this list and flex it. You can get rid of 1 lunge mine if you want, toss another body up in the officer team if you want, play around with the points. You do you, boo. But the reason why I have it set this way is even at 500 points, some people still bring armor, like me. I am that guy. In my IJN list, I bring 2 Kami light tanks. They're inexperienced, but they are light tanks.
If I can fit a dorky armored car into a 500-point game, by Jove, I will.
And when they do that, that takes up a lot of their points. And when you have 2 veteran lunge mines who are still infantry, they can still do all the stuff infantry can do. They're veteran and they're infiltrator. So if you just have them go down, people will waste order dice trying to kill them, especially if they have a vehicle. It is I call the tactic the trouble bubble. I love it because people can't ignore it. But they're like, how many dice do we want to spend trying to get rid of it? And you pre-position them, and sometimes they can even grab an objective early while you move in your actual Emperor's multi-tool up there to go grab the objective.
Sounds good.
It sounds weird, but it's kind of a fun force. And that is Tiki's 500 points out of a 30-man IJA box. Now, what do you have?
So what I have to fight them, I went. We'll talk about the Americans to fight the Japanese, and I went through the American boxes, and there's 6 or 7 different current offerings from Warlord Games with 30 models for the Americans, and so I went through each of them, and I just picked kind of which one would be the best, and I thought, who cares about what's the best? Let's go for the most thematic, and ended up with the Marines, the US Marines. And as we're in the Pacific fighting the Japanese, that makes perfect sense to me. The Marine box comes with a bazooka and a sniper, so we'll have one of each of those. But just like the Japanese, it's the infantry, and this will be a repeating theme, it's the infantry that are the core of any of these lists today. But because the Americans have their Armies of book now, they actually get to bump up the numbers in their officers squad beyond 3. So previously, any in all of 2nd edition and in the rulebook versions of the 3rd edition army lists, we get an officer and up to 2 assistants. But now with a lot of the Armies of books that are coming out, we're getting the officer plus 5 or 6, depends on the army. There's different limits. And so I'm starting off with my officer being a full-on rifle squad of 6 total models. That's an officer and 5 extra models to get, and just so that I can have another infantry squad out there using all of the bonuses that the officer gets. Moving down to my actual rifle squads, I went with a massive blob of veteran Marines because I can, because I've got those points to spend on getting those up to use as many of those points as I can. So that is a maxed out 13 model squad, and because these are going to be running up and getting stuck in and using the numbers as like almost like an ablative shield, getting closer by a few models get taken out, there's still 10 of them left when they get there. So I've given them the close range weapons of the shotguns. And the only reason why I went with the shotguns is because
Ooh, I love those so much.
Yeah, the only reason why I went with the shotguns is because it's thematic. The submachine gun is pretty much better than the shotgun in every single way, but there's like 2 units in Bolt Action that can take shotguns, and the Marines are one of them, so I'm going to take the opportunity of giving them shotguns.
Who else can take shotguns? I'm assuming the French Parisians, or Partisans, or however you want to pronounce it.
It's one of the French units, I don't remember which one.
But no, shotguns are absolutely perfect for jungle war. Anyone who's ever like hunted hogs in a jungle or like subtropic jungles understands the power of buckshot, and jungle juice when you're trying to hunt down something in the foliage. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the other thing is that even if you make a couple of models with shotguns and you don't want to use them later on, you can just say, well, they're using slug shots. They're basically a rifle, or cut shells if you want to be historically accurate. They're basically rifles. Don't squint too much. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So even if you make a few shotgun models, it's not going to ruin. You're not going to lose those models later on if you don't want to use the shotguns. For the other squad, the other actual infantry squad, I went with a much smaller fire support squad. So I think it's the airborne sprues have a medium machine gun. We don't get that with the Marines, but we do get BARs, and the Marines can take 3 of them. And so if I stack up the minimum size squad, which is actually still 7, so that's a pretty decent size squad, kind of mid-sized squad. We're not talking about a little squad. But if I give them 3 BARs, that is a lot of mid-range firepower coming from a squad that I can stick up in cover on a roof of a building or wherever it is and offer fire support to the officer and the big blob squad that are going to be charging forwards. And as mentioned, sniper and the bazooka are going to be the weapons teams. Just in case someone turns up with a vehicle, we've got that bazooka, and the sniper is just a useful thing to have, particularly in smaller games. Taking out an NCO or an officer.
I haven't had success with sniper. I haven't used them enough, to be fair. From what I've tested at my lowly level, I've been enjoying AT rifles more than snipers, but I lean more towards AT rifles because I do a lot of Conflict 47, and their value goes
47.
up highly.
Stop mentioning Conflict 47.
Never.
We can't make you stop. We can't make you stop. Absolutely. I would say that the sniper has been reduced in its effectiveness from second to third, but I do still think it has value. And I definitely think it has value in smaller games like this, where the odd leadership role here or there might just make the difference. And so having...
Spicy topic to try and sidetrack you. I think the sniper's effectiveness depends on how your local group runs their tabletops, on how they run their cover rule system, and what is considered heavy cover or not. I think that'll affect how useful sniper is.
Yeah, because you're ignoring any cover, so the more cover there is, the more they're ignoring, kind of.
Yeah, the people who play like everything is heavy cover, and snipers are crazy useful, Stop getting off track.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, let's go to another theater. Let's talk about a different theater of the war, because we've done the Pacific now with the Japanese and the Americans. So we're now going to look at, what should we do? Should we do the European
more theaters in the Pacific? Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's do Europeans. And of course, if you guys don't know, I was, of course, assigned all the quote-unquote the bad guy units, So, spoiler alert. He's like, oh, yeah, let's do this list. You do all the bad people. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. That's great for my self-image. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so with this, speaking of Europe, I decided to start with the Germans. And when I did the Germans, again, I like to get a little... I'm kind of a theme whore. So I really kind of thought about, like, instead of just making a list and making competitive, like, I wanted a theme behind, because apparently the challenge of building it with one box, 500 points, wasn't enough. To be fair, the box I use is amazing. It is an amazing box. I looked at it, I was like, I want another cooler challenge. And so I thought about what is one of my favorite engagements to kind of look at. So I was like, what if I was playing the Germans on the other side of Operation Market Garden? So that's what I decided to lean into for my 500-point German list from one German box. So the box we're looking at, German Veteran Infantry Platoon. Every time I look at it, I was like, there's so much. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to make a list because there's so much cool stuff on the actual sprue, but I did it. So this might be our first list so far that's actually 2 platoons. I got spicy with it. Under 500 points, I made 2 platoons. So it's 2 platoons. First platoon is 6 order dice. And the second platoon is an engineer platoon at 3 order dice. And that's where that whole holding a bridge comes into handy.
Yeah.
So we'll start with the first platoon. We'll start with the platoon officer. It's just a regular, and he has a submachine gun. None of the weird new fancy stuff. Now, I am using the rules and points value from the Armies of Germany book, but I kind of shied away from any of their specialty stuff just because I'm just trying to keep it simple, because I try to keep in the spirit of an entry game.
Yeah.
So that's the officer for the rifle platoon. Moving to the first rifle squad, and they are going to be they should be mirrored. Yep. So it's actually going to be 5 people. It is going to be, and they're going to be regular. So the squad does have 1 light machine gun, and that's it. So you have 1 NCO and 4 soldiers, and in that is 1 light machine gun. And the second squad is exactly the same, regular with 1 German light machine gun. That that old 1 testicle guy's buzzsaw comes in pretty handy. So then we move on down to the optional list, and this is when I throw in another squad. The exact same, regular,
this
and they have
starting to look familiar.
Well, again, the purpose behind this is if you're holding a bridge, you're going to want high mobility light machine guns to kind of like cover different fields of fire. And
squads of 5 with a light machine gun, lots of that.
Yeah, and so then later on, I also have a medic added in here at regular to try and keep some of these teams alive. And then I have one of my favorites, of course, is the anti-rifle team. Yes, the Germans had them, so that was actually ended up being perfect. And yes, it's in the box. I was super excited when I saw that.
Yeah.
The same thing, especially if you're repelling. Airborne coming in, they didn't, I'm assuming maybe the Germans did or didn't know that the whole I-Corps was headed down the highway, but at least when the airborne had Jeeps, what's great for taking out a Jeep besides a lot of things, especially an anti-tank rifle. So then we jump over to the second platoon, and it's going to be an engineer platoon. So this is again led by a platoon commander, regular with a submachine gun. Then we go to the first pioneer squad. It's going to be 5 people. They're regular. The NCO does have a submachine gun. The squad additionally has 2 additional submachine guns, and they have a flamethrower and anti-tank grenades. So yes,
Ouch.
they are the ones who are going to, while someone else is holding you in the nose, their job's to run up and kind of kick you in the ass a little bit.
It's almost like in a 500-point game, you've managed to create a Death Star.
So I'm not a competitive guy. What is a? Because when you say Death Star, I'm like, what, you mean a thing with a very terrible design flaw that got blown up by a starfighter? I don't understand the term.
Pretty much. So I'm not much of a competitive player, even though I usually play at a tournament. I'm usually mucking around rather than trying to win. But the expression Death Star in a competitive sense means that you have a single, very high points cost unit that is extremely powerful, that sometimes can be vulnerable in terms of it being a glass cannon, but sometimes it can be really, really tough in terms of it being just a super heavy tank. Like, imagine playing a 1,000-point game and bringing a Tiger, 400 points worth of Tiger. That
makes sense.
That would be a Death Star, because what you need, if you're bringing a Tiger or a Churchill, like a Crocodile Churchill or something like that, you need that thing to do well. Like, it's powerful, but you need it to work. And your opponent really needs to take it out. And so the game, some people say that it's kind of boring because it boils down to whether you get that to work or not. But other people really enjoy it because it is just that tension of having the one big thing, the one big threat to deal with.
Yeah, I did a 500-point Commodore 47 game, and someone, I built both lists, so I was that someone. But on the opposite list, they had a Panther X. Stop talking about Commodore 47. No, it was actually the Death Star. We literally had to like pin it down. We couldn't kill it. We just had to like, try to pin it and move around it. So yeah, that wasn't the intent. Like I said, this is actually just kind of an idea of what you would use to hold a bridge. So that would be like the anti-tank response teams. They wouldn't have.
There is one more unit that I've talked over. So what's the last unit?
Oh yeah, and the last one is a Pioneer Squad. This one is actually just 5 people, and it has a light machine gun and anti-tank grenades. So
sounds familiar.
Very similar to the other squads, that this one actually has anti-tank grenades, and that's kind of sets them apart as being engineers.
And they also have the engineer special role.
Yes, that is very useful. So when you look at that, you look at all the points, it comes up to, so it actually does come out to 498 points. You have 10 from the 2 infantry squad for the rifle platoon, plus 1 for the officers, 11. Then you add in another 5-man infantry squad, so you're looking at 16. Add a medic, that's 17. Add an anti-tank rifle team, that's going to be 19. And then we'll jump over to the second platoon. You have the commander, so we're up to, I think I lost track. Hold on. Sorry.
I think the easier way to calculate this would be to say that you have 5 squads of 5, which is 25, and then you have officer, medic, and the anti-tank rifle team for 30 miles.
Yeah, there you go. I'll let you run that one since it's a little bit easier to count it that way. I was actually just trying to count down the list as we went, but yeah, clearly the shortcut is a superior way of counting.
I've been wargaming for decades. So as we're looking at the European theatre, I'm going on the other side of the European theatre, and I am going for the Eastern Front with the Soviets. Now, I almost used the 40 model box, and I was going to end up with loads of inexperienced conscripts.
Shame.
And it would have been hilarious, because all of the Soviet boxes, when we started discussing this video, they all were 40 models, and so I would have to, right? But during the filming, or during the kind of the setup phase for this, Warlord Games have announced the new box of Soviet Union, and they're in line with everyone else. They're the same price, and they're 30 models. And everyone is complaining that the legs are the wrong length, even though they're not.
What? I haven't even heard that. Are you serious?
So the Soviet uniform, their shirts are untucked. Well, a lot of the uniforms in World War II, the shirts were usually untucked. But the Soviet shirt is slightly longer than most nations. And so it comes like halfway down the thigh, almost like a mini skirt. And so if you measure the leg from the middle of the thigh, which is where you first start seeing the leg, down to the foot, it looks like it's really dumpy and short. But what you should be doing is measuring it from the belt line, which is like a third of the way up the shirt, where the belt actually is, because that's where a human leg starts. And there are people getting real bent up out of shape about how all the new Soviet models have the wrong length of leg.
Yeah, okay. I'll take your word on that. That's insane, but okay. Hey, everyone hobbies their own way.
It's like, the models are hero scale, like, which doesn't necessarily help in this argument, but I've put them side by side with the old ones, and they're kind of basically the same. Now that we've got the 30 model box, of Soviets, and that seems like the new Soviet box has the same weapon options as the old Soviet box with the separate weapons, and I much prefer the separate weapons, but that's a separate video, so let's not get sidetracked. The officer is going to have one assistant, and they're both going to have submachine guns, and this is something that will come back several times during this. We're going to have one big regular squad of 11 models, and they're going to have a light machine gun. Then we're going to have a couple of smaller squads. And the first one's going to be regular, 5 models, and they're all getting submachine guns. And now the third squad is going to also be, this is going to be 5 models, veteran this time, because I just had the points for that, with 5 submachine guns, and because they're veteran, they get to take Panzerfausts. So I've got 2 Panzerfausts in there as well. And so what we have is a big, solid rifle squad with a light machine gun, and 3, if we count the officer as a 2-man squad, and then the 2 5-man squads of submachine guns coming up at you. So you've got the light machine guns, I've got the submachine guns.
I wanted to take Panzerfaust on my engineer units. They just weren't in the box. I was so sad to see that, but I can't complain because there was a flamethrower.
There's also there is the flamethrower, so you can stop. As for the heavy weapons or the support weapons in the box, like I said, it seems like they're the same as the old box. So we have a sniper, we have the anti-tank rifle, and I actually have 2 anti-tank rifles because the Soviets can take 3. Can triple up on the anti-tank weapon in the rifle platoon slot. So usually you just get 1. The Soviets can triple up and take 3. And so I've only got 2 of them, but there's 2 anti-tank rifles. If you wanted to, you could just take 3 anti-tank rifles and drop the sniper for basically the same. You'd have a few points left over for something else if you wanted to, but that would be just as good.
I feel like that's bait. I mean, I don't know. Having 3 AT rifles is extremely tempting. I kind of just want to get the box and build that list just to have 3 AT rifles. That's pretty awesome.
It's 3 AT rifles and just a bunch of submachine guns. I had to force myself to take a rifle squad because when I was building this list, I was going for a lot more submachine guns. I was almost going for a submachine gun company or a submachine gun platoon.
I mean, 3 anti-tank rifle submachine guns, that'd be really good in Conflict 47 if you've ever played it.
Ooh, yeah. That would be great. But I forced myself to take the rifle squad for 2 reasons. 1, to be a bit sensible, to at least pretend like I'm being sensible. But also, we don't actually know how many submachine guns are in the box. So in the older version, there was about 20, so you could arm half the models in the box with submachine guns. In the new box, there's probably going to be a decent number, but you're probably not going to be able to arm everyone with submachine guns. So I cut that back just to make sure that this is an actually buildable list. Although, as of recording, I haven't seen the sprues. I haven't seen what's actually on the sprues exactly. There are dogs. You get a few dogs on there.
I'm telling you, they're really knocking out of the park with these new boxes. I really like them putting more and more stuff in there to really kind of customize.
Not the anti-tank dog, though. It's just a dog.
Any dog's anti-tank mine, and you strap something to them, and I mean, to be fair, I'm sure they have grenades somewhere on the sprue, and you can just paint those up. Be like, look, it's an anti-tank dog. Go get him, Fido.
Those dogs are going to be everywhere, and I'm going to love it. I'm absolutely supporting that. But yeah, they're not officially the anti-tank dog. They're just some dogs on the sprue, which is great. Right, so now we've sorted the European campaign. Let's finish things off in Africa.
All right, and I'm assuming the bad guys get to go first, of course.
Go ahead.
So the army I went with for this one, for the Italians, I haven't built an Italian force, you know. I've thought about it. You know, I'm a huge fan of Venice. You know, and so the St. Marco Marines I thought were kind of cool. It'd be kind of a cool force to build. But I really took a look at the nation rules, and that's what I really tried to lean into when I built this force. It's a very unique force, and there's one unit that's very unique, and we'll get to how to model that unit. So what I used the Warlord Games. They have 2 30-man infantry boxes. I used the they have 3 now, I guess. I was going between the Bersagliere or the Alpini. So I decided, because I lived in Northern Italy, I was like, let me go with the Alpini, just because, you know, it's my list. I can do what I want. Except I can't talk about Conflict 47 apparently. So we're gonna go with the Alpini box list. And again, it has 30 souls or 30 torsos on it. and we took a look at what's on the sprue, and then here is the list that we decided to come up with. I say we by me. All right, so we're going to start off. It's going to come to 497 points, and it's going to be 5 order dice. So think about that for a second. A lot of your models, you don't have a lot of models, but they're all pretty cool. So we'll start off with the actual, the command team. It's going to be a platoon commander taken as regular. He's going to have 2 additional personnel, and they're all going to be packing some machine guns. Tie-in some machine guns actually were not that bad back in the day. All right, so we're going to move on.
There's a picture of me somewhere with a Beretta Model 1938, and oh my word, it's so lovely. The nicest submachine gun of World War II. Please continue.
Ooh, there's some more comment bait. I see how you bigger YouTube people are doing this. Okay, you put a little bit of bait in there, and people kind of grab at it in the comment section. All right, I'll learn from that.
Post in the comment section below what your favorite submachine gun of World War II is. And if you say Thompson, Sten, or MP40, you're boring.
No, I would say I will go with the grease gun, 100%. People who watch my stream know my hilarious story of finding a grease gun, trying to shoot it, and it leading to a whole investigation. So it's a fun story, but I love a grease gun. Phenomenal. I understand why people like the tube.
You don't have to incriminate yourself on my video, but please go
there's
ahead.
a statute of limitation. No, we're good. We're good. All right, so moving on down. Oh, hey, hold on. ATS at the door. No. So we're moving on down the list for the rifle platoon.
Wait, that's
and we're
my
getting to the actual infantry squads. So they're going to have 10 personnel, and they're going to be taken as veterans. I decided to use the actual, it says Alpini or Bersagliere infantry squad, so we went with the Alpini. It's going to have, ultimately, 10 people in it. They're all going to be veteran. It's going to have 2 light machine guns in the squad. So you have 10 guys, including the NCO, and 2 of them are packing light machine guns. Now that same squad is going to be mirrored. So you're going to have 2 squads, 10 men each, all veterans, Alpini, and both of them have 2 light machine guns. Then following the Italian rules, moving on down, I figured, why not add an artillery forward observer? Yeah, so we have a regular...
In a 500-point game, that's a big thing to bring.
But that's their anti-tank option. Where my other list have lunge mines or AT rifles and a whole bunch of guys with flamethrowers and anti-tank grenades, this has 1 artillery observer. So that is going to be their basic anti-tank option for this for the 500-point games. But you can always use it for smoke. So if they don't have any vehicles, you can always use it for just HE or even smoke and move your guys up. So there's plenty of different ways. It gives you some flexibility. Then moving down to the final unit for this Alpini box is going to be a sniper team. Now here is the caveat. Looking at the sprue, looking at images, there is no glass. There is no scope to put on any of those rifles. But not all Italian units carried scopes. I think ED-SKaR has a little bit more to add to that if you want.
During World War II, the Italians did have a very limited sniper program, and a lot of those were using German Mauser rifles with glass with telescopic sights on. But the vast majority of Italian sharpshooting was actually done in a different context. They weren't really snipers in the way that everyone else used snipers. They were more like scouts that were really good at shooting with iron sights. And these were known as the Tiratore Schielto, which I've certainly pronounced wrong. But they are a marksmanship or a sharpshooter group within the Italian army. And the Tiratore Schielto is like a marksmanship's badge that they would earn. And a platoon commander would often send their marksman out as a scout. So they end up doing a lot of similar work to what a sniper would do in other platoons in other armies. But they are usually not using a telescopic sight for a lot of the war, which is why we can use one of these without a scope on the model as a sniper.
Or if you feel like you have to add that, I know it's not in the box, you can get a hold of anything, because I do a lot of trash bashing. I played Gaslight and stuff like that, so you can take a toothpick, Q-tip, anything. You can try kind of just snip both sides until you get like a little piece that's about the size of what a scope would be, and just glue that right on top of the rifle, just paint both those ends, blue like glass, and then boom, there you go, you got a scope. So I know it's not in the box, so it's kind of cheating a little bit, but we have a very convenient historical shield to explain why not all of their designated marksmen or sharpshooters actually use glass. So that's pretty cool. And looking back at that list, how many bodies is that? Well, I'm so glad you asked. We have 20 for both the infantry sections. We'll add 3 for the leadership team, so that puts us at 23. We'll add 2 for the snipers, so that puts us at 25. And the forward artillery observer makes us 26.
So we've actually got 4 spare.
But that puts us at 497 points. So the way I built the Alpini, they're expensive, but they're all veterans, like those half human, half mountain goats that they were. I've met a few. They're insane. Never go when they say let's go hiking. No, is the correct answer. I found this out the hard way. Somewhere I left part of my soul in the Dolomites, and I instantly regretted it. But they're great chaps, all of them. They're pretty cool. The ones I met.
If you did want to use up the full number of models in the box, you could drop a couple of those light machine guns for the points. But I certainly wouldn't want to lose the forward artillery observer, because that, like you say, is the big weapon in the list. And that's because, unfortunately, the Italians, and this is all 3 of the Italian options, don't have any special weapons on the sprue. So this is why we've got the sniper and the forward artillery observer in there, because it's kind of all you can do without buying a separate product, like the weapons teams or the support group.
And that's why I also lean into the sniper and the forward artillery observer, is looking at their currently, as of the date of this recording, currently their special rules. So their special rules about it, they kind of start on turn 1 on the board. They can go into ambush. That works really well for the sniper. And then the ability to re-roll their artillery barrage, you know, that's kind of useful for the forward artillery observer. So it's what they have on the box, and more importantly, what they have as a nation rule currently. So I feel like, so I wanted to start off with Italians. Like, I'm not sure what to do. It's like, hey, get this box. You could try and build this list, you know, and try and run it. It's still fun. You still have a maneuver element, and you still have, in all my units, you'll see there's a maneuver element and a base of fire element. You know, I kind of stick to those small unit tactics.
Yeah, and you've done a pretty good job of it. So to counter the Italians, of course, the last of the 6 main nations is the British. And so I can finally finish off with my own side here. And because we're going with the North Africa campaign, I went with the Desert Rats. Again, just like some of the other nations have quite a few options, the British have several different kits. And the Desert Rats is the really quintessential early war. So we've got light mortar and anti-tank rifle, but I'll come back to those in a moment, because first of all, lions led by sheep is a saying that has been said about the British Army in World War II, especially in North Africa. And so, in keeping with that little meme, and also because I ran out of points at the end of this list, my officer is inexperienced and -1 point because I took away his rifle and just gave him a pistol.
I noticed we're using the convenient use of history to wrap our army list. I love it.
It's thematically and historically accurate, and it's also funny, which
it counts. No, I like it. That's the best. That's the best kind of historical accuracy. Is the funny kind.
Yeah. Adding to that, I've got my core rifle squads, and these are both veteran rifle squads, just to add to the lions led by sheep thing. So we've got. And actually, this kind of bookends what we did with the Japanese, your Japanese rifle squads at the beginning of this video, because we've got 2 squads of 10, and they each have 1 light machine gun and 1 submachine gun. That boring but practical but very versatile squad. And I've got 2 of those veterans, so that's a solid core part of this list. As we said, we've got the boys anti-tank rifle, so I've got 1 of those. And because I had the numbers and the points, I squeezed in 2 of the light mortars, not just the 1. You can have 2 light mortars in 3rd edition Bolt Action in the rifle platoon, so I've taken advantage of that as well. But as you've taken an artillery observer for your Italians, why don't I do the same thing? Because the British also have an advantage with the artillery observer. The Italians get to re-roll the distance, isn't it?
I'll double check. I think they get to re-roll when it actually goes off. Sorry, I just closed that window. Let me take a look. The player can re-roll the die on the artillery barrage and smoke barrage chart. The Italian artillery is already ranged into no man's land.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, the British get to re-roll. Don't get to re-roll. They get to just fire it twice. So for every artillery observer, you get 2 barrages coming in, which is, especially in a small points limit game like this, really powerful.
Yeah, if I had taken an American list, I absolutely would have a forward air observer, 100%. Yeah,
I was tempted to bring that for the Americans because air observers are better than artillery observers, as we have found out.
That sounds like a video.
Yeah, it is. The problem is it's very easy to see off an air observer with just like 3 flak machine guns in your list, and air observers become useless. I think we worked it out that 1 Whirlwind it is statistically guaranteed to see off an air attack.
So the only iteration we've had of it is we did a alternate history game. We did actually 2 attacks on Malta. The Fallschirmjägers and the Imperial Japanese Navy Special Naval Landing Force, the SNILFs. Who doesn't like a good SNILF? They actually conducted sneak attacks onto Malta against the British. And on the first one, it was a stalemate. It got repelled. We tried to sneak in a cargo ship, didn't go well. The second one, we did a night drop into Malta. We used all these special alternate rules, dropping the dice, stuff like that. It was absolutely hectic. And they had a lot of flack, but luckily, because we're smart enough to choose a night drop, go figure, right? A night drop, it actually helped mitigate a lot of the flack rules. Because I see people complaining about that with flack. I was like, are you playing a fair weather game on a table during the day? Like, yeah. I was like, then yeah, planes are only going to get shot out of the sky.
Yeah,
like, if you're doing a night drop, ooh, games change a little bit.
So, just checking here, and my forward observer has 2 assistants. And that means that once they do set off their 2 artillery barrages, they have 3 rifles to add pins here or there. And that is the list, and that is the 6 lists that we've come up with. 1 for each of the main nations of World War II, based on the plastic box sets from Warlord Games. 30 models each, and 500 points each. They are playable lists for a small points limit game, and they're also a solid platoon to start a bigger list.
Bigger list? Did you say a bigger Bolt Action list, or perhaps you were referring to a bigger Conflict 47 list?
First one, then the other.
So while we're all waiting for Conflict 47 to come out at the time of this recording, remember you can get started on your Conflict 47 army now. As I try and hijack this video and channel, you can start getting started on your army now by building this 500 point, as we said, this core. Usually rifle squad or core platoon here, you can kind of build that as a building block. Because if you have this, and you add in some Rift-Tech units or a Rift-Tech vehicle, you can already get up to about 1,000 or 1,250. Oh, that's a beautiful scorpion, as he puts up on the video. Love scorpions. You can actually start adding that stuff into it and really kind of fluctuate. You don't really have to lose anything, because you already have this base bolt action unit that can maneuver well on its own. So you have a self-sustaining 500 point base unit. You can add on your Weird War Rift-Tech.
Absolutely.
Huge advantage for Conflict 47.
And if you've got 500 points of infantry, you can play Bolt Action, or you can play Conflict 47 just by throwing more units at it. You don't have to take anything away. But also, the way that we've done a lot of these lists, there's a lot of rifles in every single one of them. So you can very easily shuffle stuff around and have, you take the ones away from your officer and give them to the rifle squad to make the rifle squad bigger, or you can split a rifle squad up to make the 2 small ones, or any of a dozen other things. And a model with a rifle is a model with a rifle. The model itself isn't locked into being an assistant to an officer or unless you've given them ammunition for the light machine gun. But even then, they've still got the rifle. They're still a rifleman.
Absolutely, and I know you talked about this when you talked about how expensive Conflict 47 is, and I mentioned it for both topics, and I'm not just stealing it, but wargaming it's a pricey hobby, and some people already have that sunk cost fallacy. They're already invested in one thing, they don't want to buy a whole other thing. So you can get double duty out of your models when you can use a model that's a rifleman. You can use it for 2 or 3 different types of games. Like a 28mm guy bloke with a rifle is a bloke with a rifle, as he mentioned. It's really, that removes one of the barriers to entry for people to try and test this out, to try it. Just getting this 30-person box and maybe borrowing someone else's dice and rules, it's fine to borrow that the first couple times. That's very low barrier to entry to start trying to play. You don't see that in too many other tabletop war games out there.
I just had the thought, because I've still got my British list open. An artillery observer is just a rifleman with binoculars. So exactly the same thing applies to that as well. There are so many models that you can switch around.
When you build out your force, it could be a spotter for a sniper, or it could be a part of an artillery team. You can put them in any kind of thing you want. Yeah. You're not losing this model just to build it one way. It's something you can use later on as well.
Bolt Action's it's just a really good game, and these boxes that we talked about today are just really good, and the amount of stuff you get in them in terms of options and kit bash potential is fantastic. And I hope that we have conveyed at least some of that to you in our ramblings today.
So, hopefully you guys didn't mind me kind of hijacking and jumping in on during one of his videos. For those of you who don't know me, you're probably better off. For those of you who do, I do also have a YouTube channel that covers Conflict 47 stuff. Feel free to go out there and try and find it. If you do, you're totally welcome. But this was a fun exercise, and what I mean by that is we do something similar to this a lot of times that we hang out. We'll introduce a small error, a small challenge, and build a list around that. For a great example, also bait for the comment section, come up with what you think would be a very fun, we'll call it MSRP, maybe around 150 US dollars, or maybe 130 quid if that translates to about fair. Of two forces of what you would think you would like to see. Keep it real small, keep it fun. And we like doing stuff like that and having these discussions because it really
Do
kind
you
of
need
makes
to get a rule book?
Ooh. No, I would say into the rule book because
Okay.
I think that would keep it. I think that would keep it kind of more approachable, right? Say into the rule book.
I think I'll come up with one of those and post it in the comment section, so that forces everyone watching the video to go into the comment section.
We do this to kind of like a little gray matter batter to kind of get us thinking outside of the normal. How many DACA stewards can I take, or how many of this can I take? It gets us kind of a more fun, flexible. That's why I like playing sometimes with night fighting rules, or just if everyone knows I play top secret, but I play it with 3 nuns and one of them secretly a spy, and they keep moving around on the board. So it just introduces a chaotic layer to the game that keeps you from your math theory hammer you did in your lab back at home to trying to introduce the actual controlled chaos that is a battle space. That's what I try and get to. So when we talked about this exercise of us creating these 500 points list and kind of basing them on not only on what's on the box and keeping it under 500 points, but also kind of making it thematic. It was a really, really fun kind of video and a really fun idea to toss around. Hopefully you like my 3 lists. I got to be the bad guy. That's fine. It's perfectly fine. But yeah, I made one for the Imperial Japanese Army. I made one for a thrown together German veteran unit trying to hold a bridge. And then I did one for some Alpini Italians who are currently on holiday soaking up some sun in northern Africa.
Yeah, and fighting those, I had the US Marines, which I have to say is one of the best kits ever because it has some separate hands and some molded on hands so that everyone's happy. We got the Soviet Union on the Eastern Front, and we had the lions led by sheep in the desert with the British. So with all of that said, that's a very long video that I now have to edit. We can wrap this up. If you do have any comments about our lists or kind of ideas for what you would do, or even if you would suggest using different versions, different boxes from Warlord Games, or even another company, like what would you do for 500 points from the War Games Atlantic boxes? Now there's an interesting addition to this question. Post those all in the comment section below, and as you're going past there is a description box, and I will leave a link to Tiki's channel in there as well for you to follow. But for now, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.
And as always, stay safe, stay hydrated, and don't forget to relax today. Because with Ed, you're on Tiki Time.